The room was so quiet that I could hear the ticking clock on the wall. Richard Bennett looked directly at me, then he adjusted his glasses. "Mrs. Parker," he said calmly, "you have been named the primary beneficiary of the estate." I blinked. For a moment, I wasn't sure I heard him correctly. The attorney continued. 75% of all personal, business, and investment assets are transferred to you immediately." A wave of whispers spread through the room. My son stared at me. Emily grabbed my hand. Vanessa looked confused, very confused. Richard continued reading. "The remaining 25% will be divided equally between Emily Parker and Daniel Parker." More whispers. More shocked faces, then silence. Vanessa's expression slowly changed, first confusion, then disbelief, then panic, because her name had not been mentioned, not once, not anywhere. She raised her hand abruptly. "There must be a mistake." Richard looked at her. "There is no mistake." "But Michael told me," she stopped herself. The room became even quieter. Everyone heard those 4 words. "Michael told me." Nobody needed further explanation. "Nobody." Richard folded his hands. "Miss Reynolds, you are not listed anywhere in this will." Vanessa's face turned pale. "No," she shook her head. "No, that's impossible." Richard remained calm. "I assure you it is not." The confidence she had carried for days suddenly disappeared. The woman who stole my seat at the funeral now looked like a person standing on thin ice. But Richard wasn't finished. Not even close. "There is also a personal letter attached to the will." My stomach tightened. "A letter?" I asked. Richard nodded. "Written by Michael Parker himself." The room became silent again. Richard unfolded a single sheet of paper, then began reading. "If you are hearing this, it means I am gone." My chest tightened instantly. Hearing Michael's words after his death felt strange, painful, almost unreal. Richard continued. "To my wife, Sarah." Tears formed in my eyes. "Not because I missed him, not entirely, but because after everything that had happened, part of me still remembered the man I once loved. The man before the lies, before the betrayal, before Vanessa." Richard continued. "Sarah, I know I made mistakes." The room remained silent. "I damaged our marriage, I damaged your trust, and I hurt the person who stood beside me for most of my life." I saw Vanessa shifting uncomfortably. Her jaw tightened. She already knew where this was going, and she didn't like it. "I cannot undo the choices I made," Richard read steadily, "but I can make one final honest decision." I felt my heartbeat quicken. "Everything I built belongs to the woman who helped me build it." My eyes filled with tears, not because she was perfect, not because we never struggled, but because she was there when I had nothing. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then came the sentence that changed the entire room. "And if certain people expected otherwise, they were mistaken." Richard lowered the paper. The room exploded into whispers. Vanessa looked like she had been slapped. She understood exactly who Michael meant. Everyone did. For the first time since entering the room, she looked completely defeated. Or so I thought, because I had no idea she was about to reveal a secret that would change everything again. Vanessa stood up, her chair scraped loudly against the floor, every head turned toward her. "You can't do this." Richard raised an eyebrow. "The will is legally valid." "You don't understand." Her voice shook. "Michael promised me." Richard remained calm. "Promised you what?" Vanessa looked around the room, then something unexpected happened. She smiled. A strange smile, a dangerous smile. The kind of smile people wear when they still have one card left to play. "You think I came here because of money?" Nobody answered. She slowly reached into her purse, then pulled out a folder. My stomach dropped. Richard frowned. "What is that?" Vanessa placed the folder on the table. "Evidence." The room instantly became tense. "What kind of evidence?" Richard asked. Vanessa looked directly at me, then spoke. "Michael wasn't planning to leave everything to Sarah." I felt a chill run through my body. "What are you talking about?" Vanessa opened the folder. Inside were copies of documents, emails, printed messages, bank records, photographs. Richard carefully examined them. His expression changed, then changed again, and suddenly, he didn't look comfortable anymore. That scared me a lot. "What is it?" I asked. Richard remained silent. Vanessa answered instead. "Michael created a second trust." The room erupted. Emily looked confused. Daniel stood up immediately. "What trust?" Vanessa folded her arms. The one he never told his family about. The atmosphere instantly shifted. Suddenly nobody was thinking about funeral seats anymore. Now everyone was wondering the same thing. Had Michael hidden money, and if he had, how much? Richard reviewed the documents carefully. Finally he looked up. These records appear legitimate. A knot formed in my stomach. Vanessa smiled again. There are assets missing from the estate. My heart pounded. How much? Vanessa looked directly at me, then delivered the answer. Almost $8 million. The room exploded. 8 millions, not 8,000, not 80,000. $8 million. I could barely breathe. Michael had hidden that much money. How? Why? And most importantly, where? Vanessa leaned back confidently. The trust names a beneficiary. Nobody needed to ask who. We already knew. She smiled. I think we all know who that is. For the first time that day, she believed she had won again, and honestly, maybe she had. The next 2 weeks became a nightmare. Lawyers, accountants, investigators, meetings, phone calls, documents. Every day brought another surprise. The hidden trust was real. That much had been confirmed. But nobody could understand why it existed. Michael had always been careful with finances. Methodical, organized, predictable. This wasn't like him, or at least, it wasn't like the man I thought I knew. One evening I sat alone in his office. The same office where he spent thousands of hours building his business empire. I wasn't searching anymore. At least that was what I told myself. In reality, I was looking for answers. I opened drawer after drawer, folder after folder. Most contained ordinary business records. Then I noticed something, a loose panel behind a bookshelf. My pulse quickened. Carefully, I removed it. Behind it sat a small metal box. Locked. My heart started racing. Inside that box might be nothing, or it might explain everything. The next morning, I hired a locksmith. The box opened in less than 2 minutes, and inside, I found Michael's final secret, a collection of journals, handwritten, dated. Detailed, years of personal notes, private thoughts, confessions. I sat at my kitchen table and began reading, page after page, hour after hour. What I discovered changed everything. Vanessa wasn't the mastermind, not even close. She was being used, manipulated, played just like everyone else, including me, because another name appeared repeatedly throughout the journals. A name I never expected. Robert, Michael's brother. My blood ran cold. Robert wasn't just mentioned once. He appeared everywhere. Business meetings, secret investments, hidden accounts, private loans, questionable transactions. As I continued reading, one truth became impossible to ignore. The hidden trust wasn't created for Vanessa. It had been created because Michael was terrified of Robert. Terrified. I reread those entries multiple times. Surely I misunderstood, but I hadn't. Michael believed his own brother had been stealing from him for years. Millions, not thousands, millions, and he had quietly started gathering proof. Proof that could destroy Robert's life. Suddenly everything made sense. The hidden money. The secrecy, the unusual trust, the missing records. Michael wasn't hiding money from me, he was hiding it from Robert. And Vanessa, she had simply been fed a fantasy, a promise, a dream, a lie. The question was, who had fed it to her? The answer arrived the next morning, in the form of a phone call that would officially begin my revenge. The caller ID displayed an unknown number. Normally I wouldn't answer. This time I did. Hello? Silence, then a familiar voice. You found the journals. I froze. Who is this? The caller laughed softly. You already know. My stomach dropped. Robert, I instantly recognized him. What do you want? More silence, then he spoke. Michael always was too curious. Every alarm bell in my head started ringing. What are you talking about? Robert sighed. He should have left things alone. My grip tightened around the phone. You stole from him? Another pause, then laughter, not nervous laughter, confident laughter. The laughter of a man who believed he was untouchable. You think anyone will believe that? I remained silent. Robert continued. You're a grieving widow. You have journals. I have lawyers. His confidence was infuriating, but he made one mistake, one very big mistake. He assumed I was still the woman he remembered, the quiet wife, the supportive spouse, the woman who stayed out of business matters. That woman disappeared the day Vanessa sat beside my husband's coffin. Now I was paying attention. And the more I learned, the more dangerous I became. Robert, I said calmly, you should be worried. He laughed again, then hung up. I sat quietly, thinking, planning, connecting pieces because revenge isn't about anger. Anger makes mistakes. Revenge requires patience, and for the first time since Michael died, I felt completely focused. Vanessa thought she was fighting for money. Robert thought he was protecting secrets. Neither understood what was coming. Neither realized I now possessed something more valuable than wealth. The truth. And truth has a way of finding daylight, especially when people become careless. Over the following weeks, I began quietly gathering evidence. Emails, bank transfers, corporate records, witness statements, everything piece by piece. The puzzle became clearer, and every new discovery pointed toward a shocking conclusion. Michael's affair, the hidden trust, the missing millions, the family betrayal. They were all connected to a scheme far larger than anyone imagined. A scheme that would soon collapse, and when it did, the people who thought they had won would discover a painful lesson. Never underestimate the woman everyone believes is broken, because sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one preparing the biggest surprise, and mine was only beginning.